week 4 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few kickers I have as sleepers this week. The first guy, Matt Gay of the Indianapolis Colts. So Matt Gay, so far this season, he's had some solid ball games in the early going, but last week he put on some type of performance with 24 fantasy points. So the first few weeks here for Gay, week 1 versus Jacksonville, 3. Week 2 with Houston, 8. And week 3 of Baltimore, 24 fantasy points. So this week, a good matchup once again on paper versus the Rams that give up the fantasy points to kickers on the season. We saw it last week with Evan McPherson scoring 19 fantasy points in that ball game. So Matt Gay, he was a solid kicker for many seasons with the Rams, and now versus his former team, he's going to want to get a few opportunities in this ball game to put it through the uprights, even though the Colts made him one of the highest paid kickers of all time, giving him a contract he couldn't refuse. So right now, versus his former team, indoor game here in Indianapolis, and coming off a huge ball game, I think Matt Gay could be a solid sleeper option. I know he didn't crack my top 12, just a lot of talented kickers so far this season in the league, and they run better offenses as well. So right now, Matt Gay, he's definitely a kicker that could crack that top 12 in points once again, and available in 87% of fantasy leagues. The next kicker is Graham Gano of the New York Giants. So Graham Gano, we've seen it throughout the years. There's some weeks where he's putting up 15, 20 fantasy point games and double-digit games. But so far this season, we haven't seen it yet. Week 1, he had 0 in the shutout loss. Week 2 with Arizona, 7. And week 3 versus 9 is 9. But this week on Monday Night Football, in a potential mini shootout with the Giants and Seahawks here, Graham Gano, he could have a good opportunity to get a few field goals, because this Seattle team gives up the 8th most fantasy points to kickers on the season, and Graham Gano has been a solid kicker for many seasons now with this Giant team. So right now in a big game, Monday Night Football, where the Giants, they're going to have to put points on the board with the Seattle team that's a pretty solid offense, I think Gano gets a few opportunities, and if you need him in deeper leagues, he's available right now in 90% of fantasy leagues. And the final kicker that's a sleeper option this week, even though I have him in my top 12, is Brett Maher of the Los Angeles Rams, but right now available in 88% of fantasy leagues still. So Brett Maher, I know last season he was horrible towards the end of the year with the Cowboys. He lost his confidence. He couldn't kick the football through the uprights, missing 5 field goals in a row in the playoffs. But so far this season with his new team, the Rams, he's gone out there and he's putting up monster fantasy points at the position. Week 1 at Seattle, 15. Week 2 versus the Niners, 13. And week 3 at Cincinnati, 11 fantasy points. So this week here, an indoor ball game at the Indianapolis Colts. And Brett Maher, he's always had the distance. That's one thing I'll say about him. He always could kick that football 50-plus pretty easily. Just accuracy's been an issue. But this season so far, he's been accurate. And this is a Ram team that they don't finish a lot of drives in the end zone so far this season, but they do have a lot of playmakers out of nowhere this year. Nakua, Kyren Williams, Tutu Atwell, so it's a youth movement over there in Los Angeles. Cooper Kupp should be back sooner than later, but like I said, Maher, double-digit games in every game so far this season, and once again in an indoor game that the bend but don't break type of day with the Colts. I think he has a decent one once again, so that's a few kickers I have as sleepers for week 4 of the fantasy football season.